Well, for more updates on the flood situation in Mokwa, Niger State, we're now joined by Air Commodore Kenneth Oyong, the Director of Search and Rescue at the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Thank you very much for joining us tonight on News Night. First off, I mean, what are you learning in terms of what caused this level of devastation, this level of tragedy, this level of loss of lives in Mokwa?
Okay, good evening, Ngozi. Good evening, Adeswa.
Yeah.
Good evening, Nigerians. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. First and foremost, before I go ahead, I want to commiserate with the people of Niger State and the people of Mokwa government area in Niger State in particular over the unfortunate disaster that has claimed a lot of lives, that displaced a lot of people. So on that note, I pray for God to grant the departed ones peace, and I also pray that those who are still alive, that God will grant them the fortitude to bear the loss. And as for the cause of the flood, what we in NEMA have learned is that first and foremost, there was a very intense rainfall that morning. Of course, we felt the rainfall right here in Abuja, and as one of those who got to Mokwa first, were the first responders. Of course, it was, we discussed, we met and talked to the local people firsthand, and the first hand information we got from them was that it was the intense rainfall that fell overnight, and of course, that resulted to flash flood. And if you are aware of what flash floods are all about, they are floods that as a result of intense rainfall that comes along with high water torrent that carries anything that is along its path, creating a lot of disaster. So for now, although there may be further investigations to reveal other causes of the flood, but for now, what NEMA is aware of is that the intense rainfall that took place on the 29th of May was the cause of the flash flood in Mokwa.
Nothing discovered about dams breaking, giving way and things like that?
Well, whatever I tell you now out of what I've just said will be speculation. I would not like to go into that.
All right. Since you have eye and boots on the ground, what can you tell us about the casualty figures? Because the figures keep rising. We're not sure which figures to go with. What are the casualty figures? There are also reports from Mokwa residents as at today that they are yet to receive relief materials. So what are you doing in terms of relief distribution? At the same time, bodies remain buried in the mud. The residents say there's a strong stench now filling the air of decomposing bodies. Is NEMA also involved in evacuating bodies away from the mud?
Thank you once again for your question. First and foremost, I would just like to run down what NEMA has done since this flooding incident occurred. Immediately the incident occurred, immediately we received news of the disaster. The Director General, Mrs. Zubaida Omar, gave her marching orders to all of us, and the head of North Central Zone in NEMA, the head of our MENA Operations Office, all of them mobilized immediately to Mokwa local government, and they moved with them with the mobile intensive care unit. They moved with them with the rapid intervention vehicle. And as the Director of Search and Rescue, of course, I activated our disaster response units, the 407 Air Combat Training Group in Kainji. Of course, immediately I called the commander. An aircraft went airborne to give us a bird eye view of Mokwa and the disaster incident. And of course, that was to help the ground search team and direct them towards the areas they are supposed to go to. Subsequently, the 211 Tank Battalion, also in Kainji, 211 Light Tank Battalion, is also one of our disaster response units. They mobilized to site, and in conjunction with, of course, our own NEMA team that were already on ground. And immediately we got there, we moved straight into action. We moved into all the nooks and crannies of the flood area. We recovered a lot of bodies, which, of course, ambulances conveyed the deceased to the morgue. Of course, those who were still alive were rescued and taken to hospitals. And that was how the search effort continued. And then the DG NEMA, of course, taking into cognizance the intensity of the flood, made effort and boarded a helicopter. The Nigerian Air Force provided for her a helicopter that brought her. She came to the scene of the incident. We received her at the scene of the incident, where she met the community head, the Sarki Hausawa, I think Mr. Bala Tanko or so. She went to his palace. He received her. She conducted an on-site assessment of the disaster area. She heard for herself. We were not told. I was on ground. So after she did that, we had to wait. As at this time, when NEMA was on ground, the DG had arrived. We didn't see anybody from the Niger State government. And of course, the deputy governor later came. He met us at the site of the incident. We received him there. And subsequently, the DG symbolically handed over the relief materials that were approved by the federal government to the deputy governor in our presence, in the presence of the displaced community. Subsequently, when the DG left, we had a meeting with all the displaced community. We had a meeting with community leaders, with IOM, with a lot of other agencies that were on ground on how these relief materials will be distributed. And it was all agreed that the relief materials will be given first and foremost symbolically to some of the displaced people. Subsequently, because of the crowd, and because we in NEMA may not be able to know those that are actually affected, because we just came into Mokwa. So we depended on the community leaders. The Sarkin Hausawa, you can call him on your phone, Mr. Tanko. We handed over the key to the distribution store, to the store where the relief materials were kept. We handed it over to him, and we addressed his people in front of him, telling him that, look, these are your materials. The federal government of Nigeria has made these materials available to you.
So in other words, no, because the other part to that question, sorry. Yes. In other words, you're telling us you've handed over the materials. What has been done with it, you do not know, is what you're saying.
We were there when the materials, of course, they started giving the materials out.
Okay, because the reports from Mokwa is that they were shown and it was taken away from them. But there are other parts to my question as to the casualty figures and the evacuation of decomposing bodies. Is NEMA also involved in that, and what are the casualty figures we're working with? Okay,
now, for clarity and emphasis, as at today, as at yesterday, which was the 1st of June 2025, I was on ground. And for clarity of doubt, I have here with me the forms that were filled by not only NEMA. The DG NEMA insisted that in order not to throw figures around, we had to do a triangulated kind of assessment. That's what I mean by that is, not only these figures are not taken by NEMA alone. They are taken with representatives of IOM, that's International Organization for Migration, with Red Cross, with community leaders, with local, state, national emergency, and all of them signed this document.
What numbers do you have? Because we don't have all night.
1st of June, what we have is 162 casualties.
162. I'll pause you there. Let's quickly bring in this report and then I can ask you my next question. Now, staying on the tragedy in Mokwa, Niger State, our correspondent Jamilu Mohammed visited the internally displaced persons camp where he spoke with some of the displaced persons.
Alhamdulillah, 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 Rabbil Alameen. Because I don't even know that there's any problem at our back of the house. I was there praying. Then I started hearing people shouting outside. And I sent one of my sons, go and look at them. What are they doing there shouting? What's the problem? Go and help me to check them. That boy just go. He refused to come back home to come and tell me, say, Mommy, now floor for anything that you know that you can able to take, may you take and leave the house. He refused to come back. When I was there again, hearing their voice, I said, and I call my daughter again. Go and look at them. I said, Mohammed refused to come back. I don't know what is really happening outside. They are shouting. Now she now come back, say, Mommy, now Flo, we should leave the house. So I said, leave the house. And I come outside to come and look our veranda. Before I should reach there, water don't reach half of the house. And I go and check my gate. Say, maybe if I can able to go back to go and take even my certificate that I'm using. The water just come from the other side and cover up the gate. And now I have to enter that water to come out, to go outside.
It happens at the early hours of Thursday, around 7 to 7:30 a.m. And it just happened like in a blink of an eye. But I wasn't around actually that day. I left home to feed home. I only comes back to meet just a sign of a well, like well that's remained in my home. And 2 of my family members were gone. But alhamdulillah, we were able to recover their dead bodies, and we give them a very decent janaza. So we put them to their respective graves.
Early in the morning, I never wake up for sleep. I just hear shout. When I come out, to come and look like this, how the rain, the water they jump on top of 3 road. Now so it's just the turn, it's just the two. So this thing, we go succeed so. Before I run for there, where the water come pour. Before I run, I say make I enter inside compound. Immediately, my children, while they call them, the water don't reach our neck. So we just run. We succeed, we'll come out. Where we come out? And from there, now we start to run.
It's only bread, pig milk, and Milo that I've received. But today, they say I should come to collect rice when they share yesterday. Because today, my name is there. Then I gave us number. When we reach there, then I say people are coming, we should go. Later on, we should go there. But I don't know how we are going to do about it.
All right, survivors, sharing their experiences, and of course those who are still waiting to get some kind of palliatives. But let me ask you, I mean, every year there are warnings from weather agencies, and I want to believe from NEMA too, to states to put proactive measures in place to at least maybe not prevent the flooding from happening, but to reduce the level of casualties.
Yeah.
What proactive measures were put in place before this rainy season, that could have prevented this level of tragedy?
Well, thank you very much.
Is NEMA even equipped enough to handle this level of operations?
Thank you very much, Ngozi. Again, as I said, NEMA is divided into departments. There is Department of Planning, Research and Forecasting, and there is the Department of Disaster Risk Reduction. Now what happens is that at the beginning of the year, before the onset of the rainy seasons, the Department of Planning and Forecasting works with NIMET and NISA. That's NIMET, of course, we know it, NISA, yeah. Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency. We work with them to get the annual climate forecast, and we also get the the flood forecast for that year. Now what this does is that the flood forecast tells us the exact communities that are going to be affected by flood for that year. After that is done by the Department of Planning and Forecasting, our Department of Disaster Risk Reduction immediately goes into action. Downscaling, we send people to these local communities, informing them that, look, your community is prone to flood. We try to encourage them to leave the place, but a lot of them settle in those places without knowing, and they do not have the wherewithal to leave the places. So we give them early warning. For those who cannot leave, we try to tell them, okay, don't put, there was a flood during the Maiduguri flood response. Yeah. There was a man who lost over 50,000 bags of assorted grains. So what we try to tell them, if you cannot leave, reduce your risk. Do not store all your grains or whatever you have in those areas. But what NEMA does is to try to encourage them to leave those places.
Yeah, but do you work with the state governments?
Of course we do. Right. We work with the state. The DG writes to the state, every state governor, that the community that comes out in the forecast. Please, this is what is going to befall this community.
All right.
Talk to these people so that they can take necessary measures. But unfortunately, of course, we know the situation. A lot of people tell you they don't have the resources to move
Commodore,
and all that.
Thank you so much for your insights. We continue to follow this story. We just heard from a deputy governor who says the search and rescue operations have been called off. He thinks it's too early, but thank you for coming to share what you've done so far. Air Commodore Kenneth Oyong is the Director of Search and Rescue, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA.